Here's a number that doesn't quite add up. This week, one of America's oldest chip makers posted its fastest revenue growth in more than 15 years. Sales jumped 25% in a single quarter to $16.1 billion, and its artificial intelligence business grew nearly 60%. Its stock is already up 172% this year. So when those blockbuster numbers landed, you'd expect the shares to soar. Instead, they fell. Today, why good news wasn't good enough. This is KnowFlo Daily. Good morning, and welcome to your Saturday, July 25th. We've got a packed one today, chip deals from Silicon Valley to Kuwait, Apple rethinking how you buy an iPhone, and a very expensive week for one visa program. But first, 4 quick stories off the front page. The Food and Drug Administration approved the first ever over-the-counter pill that combines 2 of the most common painkillers in a single tablet, Tylenol and naproxen. Each pill carries 650 milligrams of acetaminophen and 220 milligrams of naproxen sodium, and it's cleared for adults and kids 12 and up. KnowFlo, the company that owns Tylenol, says it starts working in under 30 minutes and lasts up to 12 hours. It ran 8 clinical studies showing the combination beat either drug on its own and, notably, it's opioid-free, a real selling point in a country still wrestling with addiction. A federal appeals court in Boston handed the White House another loss on immigration. The First Circuit refused to revive the Trump administration's $100,000 fee on new H-1B skilled worker visas, saying the government wasn't likely to win its case that the president had the authority to impose it. That leaves in place a June ruling calling the fee an unlawful tax that Congress never approved. The lawsuit came from 20 Democratic state attorneys general. To put the figure in perspective, employers used to pay somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 in H-1B fees, so this was a 20-fold jump. The United States just logged its worst year for measles since 1991. The CDC counted 2,318 cases as of July 23rd, which already tops the total for all of last year, and there are still 5 months left on the calendar. Remember, the country officially declared measles eliminated back in the year 2000, so this is a genuine backslide. Health officials have tracked 35 separate outbreaks across 45 jurisdictions, and South Carolina alone has reported close to 1,000 cases, in what its health department calls the biggest outbreak there in 35 years. And Brussels is turning up the heat on TikTok. The European Commission issued preliminary findings that the app broke the EU's online safety law by failing to protect children's privacy. The core complaint: TikTok lets kids keep public accounts, and even private ones can be dug up through other users' follower lists, which regulators say leaves minors open to bullying or contact from strangers. The Commission says TikTok should flip the default settings so a minor's content is only visible to people the child has actually approved. All right, let's get into it. Our top story this morning is Intel, and one of the strangest good news days a company can possibly have. A record quarter that the market greeted first with a shrug and then with a frown. Start with just how good the quarter was. Intel reported $16.1 billion in revenue for the second quarter, up 25% from a year ago. That's its fastest quarterly growth in more than 15 years, and it sailed past what analysts expected. Profit was even more striking, 42 cents per share on an adjusted basis, which is exactly double the 21 cents Wall Street had forecast. And the engine, as it is for basically everyone in this industry right now, is artificial intelligence. Intel's data center and AI segment grew 59%. to $6.3 billion. Its client computing and physical AI business, think laptops and chips that run AI on the device itself, rose 13% to $8.9 billion. Even the profit margins healed. Adjusted gross margin came in at 41.8%, up more than 12 full percentage points from a year earlier. For a company that spent the last few years being written off as a fallen giant, this is about as clean a beat as it gets. So here's the puzzle. Coming into the report, Intel had already been one of the market's best comeback stories, the stock up 172% this year. When the results came out Thursday afternoon, shares initially jumped about 12% in after-hours trading, and then, by Friday, they drifted back down, slipping below where they had closed the day before, around $100 a share. Why would a monster quarter push a stock down? This is the classic trap of a stock that has already tripled. By the time the great quarter actually shows up, a great quarter is precisely what investors have baked into the price. To keep the rally going, the company has to convince everyone the next quarter will be even better, and Intel gave them something to chew on. It's raising its spending plan for this year to more than $20 billion, up from $18 billion, to build out manufacturing capacity. Chief Executive Lip-Bu Tan, who took the top job just last year, says he's confident in the company's factory roadmap, and Intel guided to another solid stretch ahead, projecting $15.8 to $16.8 billion in revenue next quarter. Its most advanced chip line is already running about 25% ahead of target. More spending can mean more growth later, or it can mean thinner profits now. So you get this odd split screen. Record revenue and soaring ambition on one side, a stock that already reflects a mountain of optimism on the other. For a company whose biggest problem is now that expectations are simply too high, that is, honestly, a remarkable place to be sitting. That AI gold rush is rewiring deals all around the world. We've got 4 big ones this morning. From a South Korean president touching down in San Francisco to a $16 billion handshake in Kuwait. Let's go. Our first stop is Silicon Valley, where South Korea's 2 memory chip giants, Samsung and SK Hynix, are about to unveil a wave of major deals with big American tech companies. The timing is no accident. The announcements are lined up around South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's visit to the Bay Area, which begins in San Francisco on Friday. A senior official in his office says to expect long-term memory chip supply agreements, strategic investment partnerships, and a stack of memorandums of understanding, though he pointedly declined to attach a dollar figure before the companies go public. And look at the guest list. While he's in town, President Lee is scheduled to meet NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, OpenAI's Sam Altman, Anthropic's Dario Amodei, and Broadcom's Hock Tan, all built around an AI summit. Here's why it matters. Everyone talks about AI as software, but the physical supply chain, the actual memory chips that make these systems run, flows straight through South Korea. When Samsung and SK Hynix lock in long-term supply, they're effectively deciding who gets the fuel for the next few years of the boom. And this is part of something far bigger. Last month, Seoul unveiled an investment plan worth at least $880 billion, backed by Samsung, SK Group, and Naver to expand chip production and build AI data centers. Officials say this trip is meant to turn a big chunk of that blueprint into concrete, signed projects. Speaking of Jensen Huang, he's at the center of our next story too. NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, Palantir, and more than 20 other technology companies signed an open letter this week, urging Washington not to rush into restrictions on what are called open-weight AI models. Those are the models whose inner settings are published openly, so anyone can download them and build on top. The companies argue that, counterintuitively, open models actually strengthen competition, safety, and cybersecurity, and that they keep the payoff from AI from pooling in the hands of just a few firms. Huang chose this letter as the subject of his very first post ever on X, and the timing is sharp. It arrives just as Trump administration officials have floated taking action against a Chinese startup called Moonshot AI, the maker of a powerful open model known as Kimi K3. So underneath the high-minded language about openness, there's a very concrete fight brewing. How far should the US go to keep Chinese AI models out, and do those same walls end up boxing in American companies too? Now to the Persian Gulf, and one of the biggest infrastructure deals of the year. Kuwait Oil Company has signed a $16 billion arrangement covering its entire pipeline network, all 13 pipelines, roughly 320 kilometers of them, with a consortium of private capital heavyweights, Blackstone, Brookfield, and KKR. It's structured as what's called a lease and lease back, and the mechanics are clever. A newly formed joint venture leases the pipelines from the state oil company, then immediately leases the operating rights right back to that same company for the next 20.5 years, in exchange for a fee based on how much oil actually flows through. Kuwait keeps a 51% majority stake in the venture and full operational control, while the 3 investors split the other 49%. So the state pockets a huge sum up front, hands over none of the day-to-day control, and keeps ownership of its own pipes. For Blackstone, Brookfield, and KKR, it's a long, steady, oil-linked income stream, exactly the kind of hard asset private capital firms have been hungry for. And it's a milestone for Kuwait, too. The deal delivers about $7.85 billion up front, and it stands as the largest foreign direct investment in the country's history. Money earmarked to push crude production capacity toward 4 million barrels a day by 2035. And finally, Apple wants to change how you get your next iPhone by having you lease it, not buy it. According to Bloomberg, on Monday, July 28th, Apple is set to launch a program called Apple Upgrade, backed by the buy now pay later company Klarna. Instead of financing a purchase, you take out a 24-month lease on an iPhone or Apple Watch, or a 36-month lease on an iPad or a Mac after passing a soft credit check. It works much like leasing a car. You can upgrade early, pay the thing off to keep it, or simply hand it back when the term is up. It replaces Apple's older iPhone upgrade program and its standard financing options. One catch worth flagging, unlike the old program, Apple Upgrade won't include AppleCare, the warranty plan Apple just raised prices on. The bigger picture is that Apple keeps looking for ways to turn a one-time purchase into a recurring relationship, locking you into an upgrade cycle the same way your phone bill locks you into a carrier. Okay, lightning round, quick hits before we let you go. Crypto payouts, a basketball bombshell, 2 beach resorts, a global economy split, and a video game. FTX is writing more checks. The collapsed crypto exchange will begin sending about $900 million to creditors on July 31st. It's the 5th round of payouts, and it brings the total return to roughly $10 billion since the exchange imploded in late 2022. Here's the surprising part. The smallest claimants, people owed under $50,000 are getting 120% of their claim back, more than the claim's original value. LeBron James is changing coasts. At 41 years old, he's leaving the Los Angeles Lakers and the $52 million he made there last season to sign a 2-year, $8 million deal with a player option at the Philadelphia 76ers. It reunites him with Joel Embiid, who first tried to recruit him with a tweet all the way back in 2014, and pairs him with Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey. For a player entering his 24th season, taking a massive pay cut to chase one more title is quite a statement. Marriott is planting flags in 2 very different beach towns. It signed a deal with the Spanish hotel group Catalonia to open 2 all-inclusive resorts, a 522-room property in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and a 271-room resort in Zanzibar, off the coast of Tanzania. The Jamaica location, a conversion of an existing Catalonia hotel, is expected to open in 2028. It's part of a broader push by the big hotel chains into the all-inclusive vacation market. A quick check on the global economy, and it's a split picture. India's private sector growth just slowed to a 4-year low this month, according to new survey data. Meanwhile, business activity in the United States actually sped up over the same stretch. 2 of the world's biggest economies pulling in opposite directions, worth keeping an eye on as we head into the fall. And finally, some good news for football fans who are tired of getting nickel and dimed. Madden NFL 27 Arcade Edition is coming to Apple Arcade on August 6th with no microtransactions and no ads. It also brings the Madden series back to the Mac for the first time in 19 years. The full version lands on consoles and PC a week later. That's your Saturday briefing. The big theme today: artificial intelligence is now the tide moving everything. Intel's record quarter, Korea's chip deals, that open model letter, even Kuwait cashing in on the energy those data centers will need. We'll see you back here tomorrow. That was KnowFlo Daily. Sign up for your personalized newsletter at knowflo.io. News picked for you, your local news included, free.